So let's look at the YouTube API. Because Google is such a big company, they've got really good APIs for all of their stuff, but that also makes them much more complicated. The other ones we've looked at have been fairly simple. Google, YouTube specifically, is going to have a lot more options and ways to access their data. So they've got guides and samples over here, which are actually really good. So they have a guide for how to embed their information into your website, which API you need to be using. They've got samples of how to do basically everything. So looking at it in all of these different languages. But if we go to .NET, they're doing it inside of a console application, which is a little confusing and not that useful. Following along, the first time I went through this, it didn't help me at all. It was unintuitive and not what I needed. So I'm going to show you how to do it the same way that we've been doing it inside of an MVC web application. And hopefully that makes sense, and it's much easier to translate if you take it somewhere else, but you can still use C# and the same things that we've been doing. So what I really want to look at is the Google API Explorer. So inside of here, you can actually test out all of their APIs online and see what you get back with it, which is awesome. They've got dozens of them here, and the one that we want specifically is at the very bottom, YouTube Data API. To get here, you can search for YouTube API Explorer, and it will be the first thing that pops up right here, and then you can find YouTube through there. Now, inside of here, there are a lot of different API calls that you can make. It puts the ones that we've been doing to shame because there are so many options. So a lot of these you're not really going to need, and a lot of them you'll never use. So you want to figure out which ones you need exactly and get familiar with those. The primary one that we're going to be working with is going to be down here. It's going to be YouTube search.list. So if I click on this, we can actually play with this right here inside of the browser. So the first thing that's confusing is part. Their terminology doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically you can ask for different sections of data depending on the API call that you're doing. So you need to set it literally to snippet, because that's the way they've designed it, is set it to snippet. So that's what you have to do. Now you've got all of these options as well. And you've also got the option to authorize using OAuth 2.0, which I'm going to turn off for now. OAuth 2.0 is something I'm going to talk about after this section and kind of how people use it and when you need it. But if you're using anything that has to do with user data, then yeah, you're going to need to use OAuth. But for what we're doing, you don't have to. So all of these, they've got good descriptions of them. The one that we're going to need is this Q, the parameter, the query that you are searching for. So if I search Pokemon, those are the only two that I need. So I'm going to execute without OAuth, and then right down here, you can see that the GET request looks just like this. So this you should be familiar with. Looks familiar, looks just like what we've used before. Your API key goes there. And then this is the response that we get. Now the response here requires, again, a little more work, but we can figure it out. The first thing is that you've got the thumbnails, which is probably what you'd want to display. So here are the thumbnails in 3 different sizes. Then you've got the kind of result that you're getting back. So there's YouTube search result, but then there's also YouTube channel ID and YouTube playlist. Those things are different, and when you're using them, you need to make sure you filter them out appropriately. Now, the thing that we really need is this right here, this video ID. So if I copy this, you can then search for just the video ID, and it will be unique. It will be the thing that pops up. So I think it's this video right here. But that's not useful, and they don't really tell you this, but what you need to do is go to youtube.com and then /watch/ one more time, and paste in that video ID. And then that will come up perfectly. So you can see here that this video is the exact same one that we just found. So by doing that, by having a little bit extra information that you might have to do some Google searching on, you can figure out exactly how to use that. So the video ID is the unique identifier for this video, and that's important to know. You'd probably want to actually show the thumbnail on your website and have that be like an embedded video that links to this, and that's something that you could definitely do. Now, apart from that, you can change a lot of the options that you get because there are a lot of options here. Some of the important ones are going to be things like ordering, so you can change how they are ordered. That's something that you definitely want to have in there as an option. The page token is a little confusing at first, but if you come down to the bottom, it will give you a page, let's see. It'll give you a page token at the very top. You see here that the next page token is this, so if I copy it and we come in, I can paste it there and I can execute. And now these results are going to be different. So if I click on this, it's got a completely different thumbnail because I'm on the next page. And right now I'm just saying give me 5 results per page, so there's going to be a lot of pages, and now there's also a previous page token. So you can go through pages like that. And then all of these, as you think you need them, definitely play around with them and look at them. This is the default search for YouTube though. The last one that you're really going to want is the amount that you're getting back. So you can choose how many that you get back when you do a search, and that is in max results. So they only allow 0 to 50. So if we execute that, it's going to return now 50 video results. And that is the docs that you've got for YouTube, and they are pretty good. They're just not great. They're a little confusing if you've never used them before, and even if you've used other APIs, they can still be pretty confusing. And that's one of the difficult things when it comes to using APIs. Even if you've used a dozen of them, the 13th one might be nothing like the others. You'll find different APIs because they're designed by different people, and different people have different requirements when developing them, and sometimes they're supposed to be public, sometimes they become public after the fact, so they're not designed to be easy to read, and sometimes people are just lazy. So having experience with APIs is helpful, but every time you go into a new one, you've got to have the mindset that you've got to relearn how to use the API because they're all vastly different. With that being said though, in the next video, let's make a Google account, get a developer key, and put it into our project.